Welcome back for a build feature that's been 10 years in the making. We're at Down Town Kustoms to showcase Peter's amazing Pro Touring wide body Monaro. I'm excited to have Graeme, the owner of Down Town Kustoms, to show us Peter's Monaro. And like most projects, where it finished is certainly not where it started.
Hey Heath, it's a pleasure to have you here, mate. And you're right, it definitely hasn't ended up where it started. And in the beginning, it was meant to be just a basic HQ, sort of done in a Mad Max style that Peter could just drive around the country and enjoy. Soon into the build, Peter saw the fabrication that we were doing as we repaired the rust, and saw great potential to go further, and that's when he discovered the Pro Touring sort of style.
And there was two cars, it was around that time that Harrop became involved, and also Forge Line, but I understand it sort of took two HQs to make what we see today.
It did, it definitely did. Peter at the beginning brought two HQs to us, and we inspected both cars to see which would be a better donor car to start with, and we picked this one. They were both really rusted, but this was the better of the two. And even saying that, it was rusted out to, all the way up to the wheel arches. It was pretty bad.
So at what point did Peter decide to pursue the Pro Touring vision that we've got today?
So it was after about 12 months. We'd done all the major repairs to rust underneath with the floor pan, the rockers, the outer seals, the rear rails and the inner tubs were already completed, and they were done back to the standard location. So we didn't initially make any room for fatter tyres. So as we progressed through the build, Peter then discovered the Pro Touring style, and at the time in Australia, Harrop and Forge Line were at the forefront of the big brands, the good stuff that you wanted to have on your car. So I showed Peter some photos and said to him, look, we can't go in to get the dish, but we can maybe come out. So that's how the wide body idea was born.
It's all the way through as well, like the standing here and seeing the car in the metal, it is seamless, but there's a huge amount when you start to look at some of the little details around the door handles and like where the door sits relative to the glass. It's really quite amazing.
That's right, yeah. So the glass house itself is actually standard, and it's in its standard location apart from the front and rear screens where we've just lifted them. But the body itself, it all started where we've just pulled out the rear quarter at the time when they were just clecoed on, so we could see if it was like, possible, or if it looked any good. And then basically we started at this point and worked to the front and back. And to achieve this 100 mil on each side here, we actually widened the front at the top of the guard about 10 mil, and I think it was 30 mil by the front of the door, and then it wedged out to 100 mil at the wheel arch.
Wow.
Yeah, but not only is the car wedged open, it's also been remanufactured, so it gives the Coke bottle shape through the car, through the front guards.
Yeah, I remember we did the wheels. They're a ZX 3-piece, so they're a 3-piece wheel that gives us the ability to have the different width inner and outer barrels, and that's why we've got this incredible 355 30 profile 19-inch tyre, which it needs being a supercharged LSX. Well, let's try and take in some of the extensive custom work. Let's get to the front, and even the front bumper and grille is all bespoke to Peter's taste.
It is, it's all been redesigned very closely to the original HQ design, and basically just remade in a slightly modern way. The actual grille and bumper assembly is in the stock location, the headlights are in the stock location, the dimensions are all the same, the configuration's just been changed, and we just fabricated all that. So yeah, as you can imagine, changing the outside body skins then changes about 1 million things on the inside. One of them being the door hinges. So for instance, when you've moved the outside skin away from the pivot point, you then need to redesign and manufacture the hinges so the skin clears the body again. And that was one of the bigger jobs to sort of sort out along the way.
An epic build like this, the trial and error to get things right and the processes that you use have changed a hell of a lot in 10 years. So for your business, the way you do things today is not how they were done 10 years ago necessarily, as far as designing new parts and test fitting.
You're 100% right there, Heath. Back in the day when we started this build, it really was before we had delved into the CAD design at all, really. Back then we spent a lot of time after hours in our own time, like trialling things and working things out, just sitting there looking at the car, measuring things, you know, working it all out. And now these days with the CAD design and 3D scanning and everything, all that trial and error is gone now. So basically we can 3D scan the vehicle and then do it in the computer in a quarter of the time. Like it's just, yeah, made a world of change. And I sort of call this our transition car because we really started this before we were doing a lot of CAD work, and then halfway through we were doing it, and then now we're obviously heavily doing that on all of our builds. And it was hard to sort of pull back and not change things as we got better, to say. Yeah, it certainly has worked out well, and the amount of thinking and brain power in this in the early days was just, yeah, it gives you a headache just thinking about it.
Well, I know talking with Peter about the supercharger and the wheels and the brakes, even some of the decisions around the final look evolved over time as well, and he's been really active with the social media account. I know there was a few polls done on what sort of colour, because the car looked amazing when it was all metal. It came to us, must have been 7 or 8 years ago. We did a little piece with Alan Jones around the wheels. But in bare metal, we're like, well, you just clear it and it'd be phenomenal. Yeah. But what colour is it?
It's a Mercedes-Benz Silver.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Peter wants to drive the car. If he gets any chips or scratches or anything along the way, it's easily to, you know, repair and touch up, just as it would be a normal car.
So power plant, it's a B15 crate LSX engine. It's running the Harrop HTV 2300. This OTR arrangement you've got with the additional throttle body adapter looks brilliant. Obviously it clears the hood. Is that the factory hood profile?
It looks like the factory hood, but it's actually raised about 2.5 inches. With the engine compartment, obviously with the Harrop blower on top, it's really the eyepiece of the engine bay. We wanted to keep with everything being symmetrical. So that was where we did the OTR. It's all fabricated out of aluminium and everything is as symmetrical as possible there.
And it's running some pretty big pipes, looks like 1 7/8, or are they 2 inch?
2 inch, yeah. So we fabricated 2-inch primaries for this. And it's stainless exhaust all the way through.
And with that pursuit of symmetry, it continues under the car. So let's lift it up and have a look. Mate, she's as stunning underneath as she is on top. Looking at these pipes, emissions won't be a problem with that many cats.
That's right, mate. Yeah, 6 cats, 4 mufflers. Get the emissions down and keep it nice and quiet.
So registrations will be a breeze. What's the trans?
4L60E.
And then it's running a 9-inch?
9-inch, yep.
And it's got our True Track as well, an Eden True Track.
It has got your True Track, yes.
Yeah. Being on airbags, it obviously sits amazing when it's stationary, but RideTech, they've been at the forefront with that technology for a number of years, and it's been in the car for quite a few now, so.
That's right, yeah. RideTech really are the best on the market when it comes to the air ride stuff, and we use them in most of our builds. I think when the decision was made to go with air ride, that would have been back in, I'd say, 2013-14. We used RideTech shockwaves front and back, and that was with the guidance from Glenn Rulak down at Air Ride Suspension Supplies in Melbourne. And they really know their stuff around this sort of thing, and this is what we've decided to go with. And it rides great and it looks great.
With a supercharged LSX, stopping and turning is important. So it's actually, there's a lot of Holden DNA in this car. VT to VZ ultimate brake kit from us. So it's a 381mm front rotor with 6 piston calipers and 355 in the rear with a 4-piston caliper, and we've got those 19-inch ZX3P wheels, and they're like the OG wheel for Forgeline. Like if you go back to 2010, that was the wheel that all the guys building cars in the US went for, and now their wheel range has exploded. They look fantastic, but I understand Peter loved driving in a VZ ute. He thought this is the feel and the interior that I wanted.
That's right, yeah. So Pete lives offshore, so on one of his visits, we took him in the SS ute so he could feel what the engine was like, and he loved the interior and asked if we could put that in the car. So we put that in there, and we obviously had to make a few changes to make it fit, but it fit in there pretty well and it looks pretty nice now. And yeah, it actually has a lot of VZ parts in this car. So I think the door latches, the central locking, the strikers, the bonnet latch as well. Yeah, there's a lot of parts from that VZ. It hung around for a while.
So how did you go with the dash and all of the door card integration?
So the dash, believe it or not, from pinch to pinch in this car is the same width as the VZ.
Wow.
Well, we started actually with the engine and gearbox placement, and then the tunnel, which located the aircon unit, which then located the dash, which gave us the height of the dash. So the height of the engine in relation to the car determined the height of the dash. Because Pete's a tall guy, and his actual back is tall. So we needed to make sure that he fit. So we knew that he fit inside the VZ good. So our thoughts were, all right, well, let's keep all them dimensions the same.
There's always little special touches like the
embossed Sharp logo on the airbag, yep.
Yeah, and obviously the dash has got Sharp 0001, build number 1.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And that steering wheel's out of a VF Commodore. Even though that it is a VZ interior, we didn't want it to just be screaming VZ at you, so that's why we've changed the shape of it. The centre vents are actually out of a smaller Holden, like a Vectra or something. We moulded them into the dash so they look factory, but
yep.
not VZ.
And a modern sound system.
Modern sound system and GPS with a reverse camera.
And this fuel filler, unique location, but with these beautiful guards, you couldn't have a hole in it. And I think that's one of the reasons why the car was in Melbourne all those years ago when it came to Harrop. Prior to that, the workmanship was done in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, that's right. So as you know, the wide body, we couldn't just modify the quarters that we had. So we needed to remanufacture the quarters, and to do that, we actually used Jamie Downey from Custom Garage in Melbourne, and that's the reason it was in Melbourne. So I went down and flew down there and spent some time with Jamie, and we cut up the original quarter panels to get the shape that we wanted, and then I left it in his capable hands, and he actually fabricated these new quarters from scratch, which is amazing. The
end result is just outstanding. It's a practical car because I remember when we did the wheel order those years ago, it's got a little space saver 3-piece wheel with tiny inner and outer barrel, much like a modern car.
That's right, mate. Yeah, Pete wanted to, he wants to drive this thing, and we needed a spare, so the space saver was perfect. And I believe the tyre is from a new Jaguar space saver tyre, and Forge Line and you guys organised to make that wheel for us, and it fits front and back. So before we take it for a drive, let's take a look at some of these other masterpieces that are at the shop. So this build here, it's a HT Holden. We built this for a guy in Melbourne, Dean Rickard. He's been travelling around Australia to all the show events, and it's on its way now to Red Centre Nat, so we're just storing it for him. But it's another great car, all modern driveline, LS, 6-speed manual. It's really easy to see, Graeme, why it's an award winner, and the finished product is incredible. This rig's in the build. Yeah, mate, this has just gone through the very first stages, so it's on its dolly, it's been 3D scanned. The chassis has been designed for this, and now we're just awaiting the laser cut parts and CNC tube parts. And you're making your own chassis in-house now, which is exciting, so let's go and take a look. This is the fabrication side of the shop. We'll do a bit of a walk around, I'll show you. Over here's our big jig table. Some of the parts, this is a fabricated bonnet skin frame for this F100 here. It doesn't really look like much right now, but it's actually a pretty big job. One of the boys is working on that now. This is the top skin? That's the top skin, and this is the inner skin. So they never had an inner skin from factory, and the bonnets are floppy and flimsy, so this will brace the bonnet and stiffen it up. Early girl F100, is this a 55 or a 56? This is a 56, this one. So this one's much like the HT or the HQ, it's a full build for us, and it basically rides on an original frame where we've 3D scanned and 3D modelled new suspension components front and rear. We box the original frame, we do a new cross member for these trucks and a new rear end for them so they can drive, stop, steer like a new car. This is in its very last stages of metal shop, so right. Cody over there is finishing off the bonnet inner. He'll finalise the bonnet, we'll finalise the gapping, and it will be sent over to the body shop for the boys over there. Heath, this is actually a part of the inner skin for this 56 F100, so as we were talking about how the bonnet flexes and it's flimsy, so this is one of the pieces that'll stiffen it up and make it strong. And using an English wheel like Cody is, it really doesn't get more handmade than that. That's right, mate, yeah. So this is as raw as it gets when it comes to metal shaping, using the old English wheel. And it's really just a perfect mix of new technology and old world skills. This is a really great example of your engineering and workmanship. Chris, our operations manager in the USA, is a bug fanatic, so I can't wait to show him what you've done with it. This one really is an example of the way we are doing things these days, and it's technology that is available to us and how easy it can be to create something crazy like a front-mounted LSA powered bug. We 3D scanned the body, and then I got in SolidWorks for a couple of months and designed the brand new chassis for it, front to back, and it bolts to the body. So this one runs a 9-inch diff, parallel 4-link or Watts link and coilovers, and the front has one of our independent front ends with power steer, sway bar and coilovers as well. So we had to retrofit what he'd already done to your chassis setup, and it was lucky it only just fit with our control arms and stuff. But so yeah, if you look in there, that's our new independent front end that's been designed specifically for this car, like the the wheel base, wheel track, the weight of the car. We plot all the geometry and simulate it in the computer before we make anything. And then, yeah, the big LSA, which is just begging for some Harrop gear put on it, I think.
I think for anyone now that wants to build something like this, your profile, Down Town Kustoms, has grown and grown and grown. Like, what sort of wait time is someone looking at?
At the moment, for something serious in the fab shop, there's probably about a 12-month wait. And that's for design, and then to actually get into the fab shop, probably be more like a year and a half.
Yeah, wow. I can see something pretty exciting over the back.
V10 Viper 56 F100. Much like the other 56 over there, same thing. We've run a original rails box with one of our front ends and rear end with the big brakes, power steer. But this one, he went and bought this nice V10 Viper motor, and we've made that fit in there, which is pretty cool. It doesn't look too big, like it doesn't look overly big there, but yeah, we've set it right back. You can see the firewall's pushed like right back, which has created things down the line, but when you tear them down this much, you can just address those things as you go. And again, having the beauty of the body in CAD and the chassis in CAD, we can do things in the computer instead of wasting time in real life. You see up there, that's the buck of Peter Sharp's quarters.
That's almost
pretty cool.
It's almost a trophy for the man cave.
Yeah, that's why it's screwed to the wall, so Pete can't take that. So this is the paint booth and the paint mix room where we mix all the colours that we need, and this is the body working area. So this is where all the dirty stuff happens.
Yeah, the booth looks fantastic. The shop tour has been really, really amazing. Let's see if Peter's here and we can take this car for a drive.
No worries, let's go. Pete's really going to enjoy this. He wants to do some long trips in it all around Australia, so he'll be enjoying himself.
Be doing it in comfort.
That's right, yeah, and style.
It'd turn some heads, that's for sure.
It definitely does, yeah. Like anyone from the little kids in the car with their family to the oldies, everyone seems to love this car, or they don't know what it is at first, and they're staring, trying to work out what it actually is. But it is a great car.
Peter, so great to see you after many years.
You as well, Heath.
Here with Graeme and the boys at Down Town Kustoms, and the car is almost complete.
Exactly. It's going to go through its final registration next week, and I couldn't be happier with it, to be honest. It's come together really well. It's taken way longer than we ever expected. The tail was probably lengthened because of COVID and the
But project cars,
stuff.
like to this level,
typical.
with everything is one of one. It's completely custom.
And look, honestly, I'm really thankful. Graeme has always helped with the quality, and that was never in doubt. And that's why I changed, after we started this project, to make it into the car that it is. But throughout the process, we've always opted for the right way of doing things rather than the quick way. So that's obviously taken more time. But the fact that I live overseas, actually it hasn't really hurt, because I kind of fly in and out.
And I know you can't wait to do some touring, so I can't wait to see you at Harrop with the car really soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, we'll be down in Victoria and most other states as well. We're going to take this thing on its original intention, which is big tour around Australia, so wife and I are looking forward to it a lot.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
see
you.
you in Melbourne.